Boom. And we are live, you guys. Morning, coaches. How's everyone doing?
Good
Good. How are
morning.
you, Coach?
Jibril, you awake, dog? You awake, my man? All
Yep,
right.
yep.
It was just I thought I heard a mumble is all. So make sure, especially since you're on your iPhone mic, speak up, and then I'll kind of keep monitoring. But I'm excited to have you guys, all on and kind of talk shop a little bit about our kids program. A lot of exciting things. And so it's one thing when Professor Muhammad and I talk about it, but I wanted to bring you guys in, introduce, really the secret sauce behind the magic of the kids program and go into it. So first, let's start with Coach Farris. Actually, we'll start with Coach Jibril. Introduce yourself. Who you are, a little bit of your background. Then we'll go to Coach Farris, and then we'll just start talking about the kids program, comp kids, fundamental kids program, and then some cool events we have going on. So, Coach Jibril, we're gonna start with you. Tell us who you are, what you do, your role at Metro, the whole nine.
Hey guys, my name is Jibril Abrabboh. I am our kids program director, and I run a lot of the curriculum behind the mats. Me and Coach Farris work a lot on the training camps, and yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
Fantastic, my man. So, Coach Jibril, how long have you been training jiu-jitsu?
So I've been training jiu-jitsu for coming on 17 years now.
And how old are you?
I am 22, so I started at 5.
Started at 5.
Yeah.
And you loved it the whole time, right?
No.
What?
It's funny. I was just speaking to a parent. I was just speaking to a parent who's like, I had trouble getting my kid in here. Like, he's just not having a good time or he's like, he doesn't want to come. And I'm like, no, that's normal. Like, kids will go through highs and lows, and they're gonna have times that they're like, this is the worst thing in the world, and they're gonna have times where I love this so much, and that is completely normal.
What? So we're. I'm gonna circle back to that conversation. I'm gonna move to Coach Faddis. I want to introduce him and go from there. Coach Faddis. Same thing, same question. When you start training, how long? What's your role at Metro? And go from
All
there.
right. So I'm Coach Farris Abuwandi. I've been training for about 14-ish years. I started when I was 4, took a little bit of time off playing soccer. It's funny that when I started, I still remember how I started. I was with Coach Mo and Coach Jibril. We were at a parent-teacher conference, and we were running around, making a lot of noise, causing problems. And Coach Mo said, "You know what? You got to come with me now." And then threw me on the mats, and I was training since then.
You were at a PTO.
We were at a parent-teacher conference, and we were running around, making a lot of noise, causing problems. And he said, "All right, can't be here." So he took me. We went in his car, and we ended up on the mats.
Aren't parent-teacher conferences like supposed to? It's just the parents. How are you even there? Like what? Like isn't that just the
brought
parents
us
only?
so that we can listen in, but then we
Yeah, I was
ended
gonna
up
say,
running out of the room.
I feel like parent-teacher conferences are always with the kids, so
That's
they hear
how it
the
was
feedback.
when we grew up. The kids
Yeah.
go in, listen to what the teacher has to say, but us little kids just ran around and played games.
I never attended a parent-teacher conference in my life. I don't even know if my parents did, to be honest with you. But like that's crazy.
That might
That's
be
wild.
why.
And so
Yeah.
you were making a scene, and Professor Muhammad like grabbed you by your metaphorical collar and threw you in the
He's
car.
like, "All right, you're gonna come with us in jiu-jitsu." I was like, "Let's do
Might
it."
not be.
Maybe we should. I feel it's important then. What's your relationship to Professor Muhammad before we just start? Let's.
He's my uncle.
He's your uncle, so he's Uncle Muhammad.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like Professor Muhammad saw an unruly kid, threw him in his car, drove him off.
Oh yeah,
off
he's
site.
my
Okay,
uncle.
all right. Okay, cool.
Well, I would have to say that I did throw them in the car. Tell them, I didn't ask them to go to a tournament. Do you want to do this? It's like, this is where we're going. This is what's next.
Sure.
They didn't really have choices when they were younger. It's like, okay, this is the plan. So
yeah. Well,
I got a question for both of them. I got a question for both of you guys can answer before we get started. So you guys run the the kids program, right?
Yep.
And when we introduce you guys and say, hey, this is Coach Jibril, Coach Farris, they actually run the kids program. Somebody who doesn't know jiu-jitsu, I've seen that look in their eyes, and they're like, oh, okay, they have a bunch of kids and they just teach jiu-jitsu. So us being on the back end and the logistical side of what it takes, can you explain, like, give a little bit more explanation of what is when you guys run a kids program? uh, like what exactly does that mean? Because like in soccer, let's say you run a kids soccer program, people are picturing, oh, a bunch of kids in a group like a flock of birds are running around chasing a ball. It's just kind of crowd control. So we both know that there's a lot more that goes into it. But give us a quick breakdown of what it means to run a kids program
Uh,
in your head.
I'll go first. And when we say we run the kids program, and specifically where I go, is it a lot of building curriculums, working with parents. That's where I do a lot of my work, is talking to parents, making sure that they're good, making sure they're having a good time, making sure they're involved, making sure the curriculum is always updated. Something me and Fatis work on a lot, and we'll touch on this later. It connects more to kids' pans, but we often will meet and are saying, okay, this is how the curriculum went this year, or even it's been 6 months. How have we noticed the kids' jiu-jitsu growing? Are they learning? All of that stuff. So it's a lot of constant reevaluation of the program and saying, how can we do better? And how can we get not just our best kids to do better, but how can we get the entire program to a higher level? Um, and yes, there's a lot of curriculum building. It's a lot of meeting with parents. It's a lot of just talking to kids. Something that we do a lot is working with the kids, making sure like it's very easy to dismiss a kid's like mental state while they're training, but you'll see like Coach Faddis a lot is just really working with them, making sure they're okay, having a good time, focused, and not worried about how they're feeling that day, because the coaches do a pretty good job of managing that.
How about you, Coach Faddis?
So I think Coach really did a good job explaining it. I think something that a lot of coaches can use to benefit is you're not just coaching the kid to do jiu-jitsu, but you want to build a relationship with the kid and the parent. Because when you guys can have a relationship where they're not scared of you, or there has to be a good line of where they know, okay, I need to listen to this person, but I also respect this person at the same time. I'm not just listening to them because I'm scared. I'm listening to them because I respect them. Those are two kind of different things, and you get that by not just telling the kids, "I do this because I said so," but explaining why. And I think a lot of people just say, "You know what, you guys have to do this because I said you have to do it," or they'll say, "You know what, just do it," and don't give a direct explanation as to why. And I think for kids, it's important for them to understand that. And also to remember that they're still kids. They want to go in and have fun. It doesn't always need to be a no talk, absolutely no laughing kind of class, but you have to understand that they're here to hang out as well, socialize, and also do a good job at keeping them actively working while they're doing that, right? So like in our fundamentals class, they do a lot of introductory like games, but it's more so position training that we call games, and that's a good way to keep them engaged and loving jiu-jitsu. And the other thing is when you're the head of a program, you can't just stay on one side. You have to build relationships with everybody throughout the program, whether it's your little lions, whether it's your fundamentals, your advanced. So just keeping a constant relationship with all these parents and kids in a good manner so that they respect you and they see you guys on the mats, and it's not just, oh well, I know that coach. They know your name. Introduce yourself when they first come and really build a good relationship and a lasting impression.
So that's and it's a really difficult thing to when it's a really difficult thing when you're just getting started. Well, I should say as it's grown. When you're just getting started, everyone's white belts. It's pretty easy. You're kind of focusing on one need for these kids, right? But now, I mean, we have yellow belt all the way up through yellow belts and like seasoned yellow belts. Some of these kids been training 5 years with us now, and so how do you, because the largest obstacle is keeping kids engaged. Period, and that's difficult to do in any sport, any of them. But when you're dealing with something as difficult and humbling and frustrating as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, then you're like, okay. Now, I mean, my kids are no different. They hate it. They literally they know by now not to argue with me, but they're like, okay, I only got 1 day left of Jiu-Jitsu and then we're free. Like that's their mentality. They're like, okay, yeah, I can do it. But it's a life skill, and that's a big difference between completing a soccer season or a hockey season. and learning a life skill. So how do you precisely meet the need of each stage of growth as they go from like their first 6 months to maybe their next 12 months, then maybe after 2 years, and then how does that look like? Well, let's start there, and let's start there.
So
How do you meet the need of each stage of
I'll
growth
start
for the
with
kids?
some of our beginners because I do a lot more of the curriculum building for the beginners and the lions and working up, and then I'll let Faddis touch up on the
Dope.
advanced because that's currently what he's working on. So um, first, shout out Coach Jimmy. He's the one who actually came up with the idea of using games as a form of position training, and it's worked really well. Getting the kids
Jimmy who?
to Jimmy Parks, Coach Jimmy Parks, does a phenomenal job with the fundamentals kids. Um, Got to give him his shout out. His definitely like yeah. So when he started working this in slowly, we saw a huge improvement. We don't use it every single day because we do like to make sure they're learning some technique throughout the week. But 2 days a week, the kids are doing like position training almost the entire day. And so he does it in the form of games and he gives them tasks. And when you're giving them these tasks, they have like very achievable small goals. It's not like they have a major goal that they're not sure if they're going to hit. They have a goal like telling a kid to do the move of the day in a match. And then doing a regular match, as you guys know, is not easy, especially everybody's seen it. It's fresh in your mind. But when you put them in the position to do the move and you're saying, this is your only goal, you don't have a big area to cover, it makes it very easy. And the kids go, okay, I can do that. I can do that. And so the more they're using their moves, and a big part of that comes down to the curriculum. When we're building the curriculum for their kids, it's really built around like what's something achievable within a year to learn. What are some moves that are very like not they could be simple, they could be a little bit like more broken down, but overall, what's technique that if the kids are here for a year and they're learning, that they could learn the entire year's curriculum so long as they're working towards it. Um, and yeah, so it's just a combination of position training through games and then also teaching technique that are achievable for kids to learn in a month so that when we switch positions or we're going from position to position, they're not like, yeah, I had no clue what coach just taught me last week or last month. I was here every day, still have no clue what he went over. It's a lot more achievable and easier to break down.
Well, that's and we've seen. I mean, we've seen Coach Jimmy is he's really nerding out to the ecological approach, and we're seeing success. I know he's seeing success with that in his kickboxing. You know, I like that. You know, even in the adults. You know, because like you can get so caught up in the minutia of it as an adult. You're like, you know, it's got to be right, and then you apply that to. I'm thinking of Landon, my 5-year-old. No, dog. Like he's not like you're not gonna get that the motor skills to the attention span. So if you're just like, all right, keep your chest on his back. I don't care how you do it. It's totally different. And then they're having fun with it too, because now it's not just like I gotta do this, and you know I'm doing the same move over and over. It's like however it works, and that helps keep the kids' attention because when it's fresh, new activity, you're the law of attrition kicks in, and you really have to keep them engaged. Coach Faddis, how about with the you know with our advanced kids now? You know, some of these
So
are gray through yellow, which is
right.
And how they get into the event.
for those who are new to it, anywhere from 12 months to 5 years.
Right. So we have some kids that have been training for since we opened, right? For 6 years. We have some kids that have been training for 5 years. And then some kids who have only been training for a year. So the burnout's going to look different based on like from kid to kid. Right? Like we mentioned earlier, Coach Jibril said he had a little bit more burnout when he was a kid. Honestly, I didn't feel that too much when I was doing jiu-jitsu, but that also comes with I was doing a lot of other sports. So it wasn't just jiu-jitsu as my sole focus. So for each kid, it's kind of different. Like we have kids that do multiple other sports. So for them, it's not just jiu-jitsu that they're focused on. And then we have some kids that are training 3 times a day. So it's understanding the kid in their situation and then understanding that some of these kids train more than like most adults do. Like they're training, some of them are doing 3 times a day during the summer, 2 times a day throughout the year. So that's 10 classes a week if they're coming 5 days a week, which most of them come about 4 to 5. And then some of them are even coming on Sundays to do judo with Coach Jibril, and some of them even stay in the adult class to do class with Professor Muhammad. So all of them do train a ton of jiu-jitsu, and most of them also have big goals in jiu-jitsu. So it's having like weekly just quick chats, like how are you feeling, how's your body feel, how do you feel leading up to this tournament, and understanding that sometimes a day off is better for them than a day of training, because they've trained a crazy amount this week. Maybe they just need one day off to kind of just recoup, do what they love, maybe play video games, go outside, ride their bike, do whatever they want to do, and then come back in the next day. So sometimes giving them just like a quick reset day to get that back, because most of these kids are training even on Sundays, right? Like Saturday's probably their only day where they don't do jiu-jitsu. And even some of them still show up to open mat and drill. But knowing the kid, talking to them, and having open communication, because as a coach, you have to have communication with the kids, because you're not going to know how they feel physically or mentally without talking to them or without them coming up to you. So you have to give them that open uh, area where they can say, hey, coach, I'm feeling a little sore. Hey, coach, I'm feeling a little burnt out of jiu-jitsu. So you can address it. Maybe that just means their training gets a little tapered, right? It's still important training, but maybe they're doing a little bit more drilling than they are live matches. So having that open line of communication with your students definitely helps, because you know what's going on in their head, because I mean, I can't read minds. So I don't know what's going to go on or what's going on if they don't tell me. So like throughout the PANS training camp, they were training about 3 times a day. So a lot of them were tired by the second session or were sore by Friday, because Monday you're fresh, Tuesday, Wednesday you're still good, and then by Thursday, Friday you're starting to get tired. So I had a lot of kids come up to me and say, hey, coach, I'm feeling a little sore right now, or this is bothering me. And you might change the technique they're working on that day, or you might change the intensity of the class so that you're following the trend of the class. Like if I see most of the kids by Friday are like really tired or really sore, it's going to change from maybe a harder class to like an easier class, more focused on our drilling, more slow paced. So having that open line of communication definitely helps. And I'd say that's a big
So,
recommendation.
like kind of leading into PANS, so over the last 5 years, you guys have, do you know how many um, uh, Pan American medalists that you guys have produced in the last 5 years, Jabril or
I can
Faris?
I can count it off my
Yeah, I
bro.
can count.
Like 10?
More actually.
I would say
For sure.
around there, maybe a little bit more.
Okay, so in 5 years, you guys have produced 10 world championship medals at the kids level. So, can you tell us what you guys have noticed? Is there any common denominator about what it takes to produce that type of champion, from parents, from kids, from training? Like if you're talking to parents that are interested in either jujitsu or they want their kids to like go to that next level, what are some things that you guys have learned on what it takes to get there, to succeed there, and like what's the secret? I know there's no secret sauce, but what is it you guys could share that you notice these things are typically in place when you see a successful jiu-jitsu competitive athlete?
Um, I think one of the things for me that I see that brings out the most successful, um, is involvement from the parents, and something I think that is very heavily underestimated for athletes in general, but in jujitsu, it's big because jujitsu is very much a sport that's like, well, what am I supposed to do? I just drop my kid off and go. But the kids who are the most successful have some of the most involved parents. The parents understand their jujitsu schedule. The parents understand their needs to compete. I even for myself, like my dad, Bobby, he was having me compete once a month. It wasn't like, oh, do you want to, or what tournament? It was like you are registered once a month, and that is something that is so valuable. I see it in multiple of our kids. Parents go, yep, he competes once a month. We just take him to a tournament. We have one kid who competes almost every weekend. But when the parent takes that front seat and says, I know what is necessity for your training, this is what I'm going to do to help you get there, that is something that is so important, especially when they're communicating with the parents and saying, okay, well, the coaches, I'm sorry, when the parents talk to the coaches and saying, what does my kid need? And we give them that information and then they just roll with it. That's where I see a lot of our most successful athletes. Obviously, there's enjoyment too, but if Faddis, what else do you think?
So I would say from the kids, it's engagement in the class, and that means like you're not just showing up, you're present in the class. They're asking a ton of questions, right? Like we have two gold medalists, and both of those the year they won asked me minimum 4 questions a class, and they trained about 2 to 3 times a day. So it's staying engaged and asking questions and constantly trying to learn, even if it takes you a little bit longer, just trying to actively learn. And then obviously you're going to hear anyone say it's just hard work and dedication to what you're doing. Understanding that there has to be sacrifices that are made. Like your friends might be going to the movies at MJR right across the street, but it's time for class, right? You don't taking those sacrifices, the dedication and the hard work and staying engaged in the class is a big need and for all the kids that want to go to the next level, because it really shows your coach, hey, I want to be here. I'm not just here because I have to be. And it streamlines your learning, right? When you guys are active in class, you guys are asking questions, they're doing the technique they're supposed to be doing. It's going to streamline that understanding of jiu-jitsu a lot faster.
So what I'm hearing then is obviously the parents is key. Like, and that's, and we should differentiate. This is our kids competition team, right? So it's not just, I mean, we do have higher ranks, like we do have higher ranks who are not on the comp team, but these are kids that are like, even the process to get on the comp team is, I mean, there's kind of some gates there, some gatekeeping there to be like, all right, well, you don't want to just have open enrollment because then you tether the overall performance of the team. And so if you're committing to being on the competition team, then that's just that. You're committing to train and compete, scratch that, practice X amount of times per week, compete so many times per quarter. And you're committing, the child is committing to do that, right? It's a lot of times, I was talking with Coach Jimmy Sawula, our wrestling coach. He's like, dude, in wrestling, you see these kids get signed up for something that they had no buy-in on, and like they're only doing it, maybe because they've got natural talent, or acclimated, or dad wrestled, for whoever, and then he kind of wants to live vicariously through his son, daughter, whatever, but you have buy-in from the kids themselves. So what does, I want to come back to the competition team. What are some of the main, can you categorize, I almost said stereotype for lack of a better description, but like, give me like an average type kid who starts jiu-jitsu. Like are they like your natural stud athletes, or what's a natural type kid who would start jiu-jitsu in your fundamentals class, Coach Jibril?
One thing that's really cool about jiu-jitsu is you don't have to be like some stud athlete. You don't even have to be some stud athlete to like excel in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a sport that really is timing on the mats will be a direct translation of how you move. But we have like there really is, that's my favorite thing about jiu-jitsu. There is no clear stereotype of who does jiu-jitsu. You're not going to see the same person twice. You're going to see, we have a lot of kids who come in because they get bullied. We have a lot of kids because they're looking for a new sport, and jiu-jitsu is becoming a lot more mainstream, and jiu-jitsu is the sport they're training. We have a lot of kids who come in because their parents want them to be able to defend themselves. And these kids come in all shapes and sizes, like big kids. We have some 4-year-olds who are huge, just super tall. We have some like 11, 12-year-olds who are very small. And so there really is no cookie cutter shape like, oh, you do jiu-jitsu, you're going to look like this. Where a lot of sports, you have to have a certain body type to succeed. Jiu-jitsu doesn't say that. You don't need a superstar athlete. You don't need to be in the best of shape when you start jiu-jitsu. You don't need to be somebody who does all these other sports. Jiu-Jitsu has it really is a very mental game, and you have to grow with it, but there is no cookie cutter who starts right away. Like, what do you look like?
I think you hit a key thing on there too. Is like a lot of bully proofing. Kids, parents reach out
Yeah.
for their kids. Self defense for sure. But I was talking to a guy at my church, and they do travel hockey, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? He actually came into the gym back in the day, like I think during COVID or whatever. And he came into the gym, and they're like, yeah, our schedule's just too tight with hockey. I was talking with him recently. He's like, yeah, it's kind of a race to nowhere. Like you get somewhere, and it's go go go. And hockey is. I mean, a travel hockey schedule is it's aggressive. I mean, it's equally as demanding as a kid's some of our kids competing. But he's like, it's the race to nowhere. And I was like, yeah, not to take away value of general mainstream sports, but like there's just a different type of work ethic involved in jiu-jitsu. And we've talked about this. We've talked about how even how it injects itself into the psyche. Like it means something a lot different if you get scored on 10 times in a practice game or a scrimmage versus you get choked out or arm locked or shoulder locked or foot locked 10 times in a practice. Because especially our boys, like dude, you could have, you just lost combat, right? You lost combat. And I'll borrow from Rogan's statement again. He's like, you escalate any of those other mainstream sports to their ultimate aggression, it results in combat. And so that's what we see a lot. But we're really proud of how diverse our kids program is to all across the board, from their size, their age, their background, their ethnicity, all of it. And so you get that's one of the things I like with Scarlett and Landon is they get exposure to kids from. I mean, we're downriver Michigan, so it's any people group you're going to find in America, you'll find on the mats. Like period. And so you get that that exposure to it and that social interaction as well, which prepares them. I mean, undoubtedly prepares them for success off the mat. So what are some success stories you guys have seen with kids? Maybe mom's like, we have no interest in competing. I don't want my kid to be world champion. I just want this for my son's super hyper. My daughter, I want her to have confidence. Like, what are some success stories or things we've seen like that?
I can take this one.
Can
So
I add?
we had
to that?
siblings.
Can I add to that question?
Sorry, Coach.
Yeah, I just want to add to Coach David's question. You guys could answer both as you're talking about the kids. So, like in football and soccer and baseball, you have every quarter you have a break. At halftime, you get to come in and you have to make adjustments, and everybody has a game plan in sports. And, you have a lot of breaks and times, and you have timeouts to make adjustments and go back and say, okay, let's fix this, make adjustments and come back. And that goes into coaching, right? So coaches are essentially the facilitators of getting results for the athletes or the students. In jiu-jitsu, you don't have a timeout. Let's get a timeout and check in for a couple minutes in basketball. You don't have a halftime where you have 60 minutes, 30 minutes to essentially look at the plays, look at the defense, look at the offense. You guys have 4 minutes. The clock doesn't stop unless like they run out of bounds and they're like immediately bringing you back in. So the question to build on Coach David's question is the results that you've gotten. How, as coaches, are you guys able to take kids and make those adjustments like so fast with so little time and get these success stories and get the results like 10 gold medals in 5 years? Like, what are you guys doing to get these results and share some of them?
Let's answer. You can answer. Let's get Farris's answer to off the mat success first, and then Jibril, you can take Coach Mohammed's question.
Sounds good.
All right. So I want to say it was about 4 to 5 years ago. We had 2 siblings come in, a brother and a sister, and they came in because the brother wanted to do jiu-jitsu. The sister didn't want to do anything. She didn't want to do jiu-jitsu, but her parents said, you have to try it. So about 2 years later, she competes, gets hurt competing, and I thought that's it. She's probably done competing, relatively done with jiu-jitsu soon. They looked like they were on their way out. A year after that, she goes to Kids Pans after training tirelessly, and the script has now flipped. He was kind of over jiu-jitsu. He still does jiu-jitsu and is actually now really picking up on his jiu-jitsu and did really well at the last tournament. But she started taking this as more of a, like, this is what I'm doing. This is my sport. This is my job. Like, this is exactly what she's doing right now. And she just jumped in head first after that and just started training tirelessly. And she ended up going to Kids Pans, lost her first round, and then came back, trained again really hard for a year, and ended up making it all the way to the finals, winning 3 matches, and then falling just short, getting second place at the biggest kids tournament. So sometimes it's not the kid that comes in and just, goes head first, and it's the kid that just sticks with it, trains really hard when they come in, and the consistency you get from those kids. And now she was like, when she first came in, you wouldn't hear a word from her. It would be just come in, does class. You might get a quick little, very under her breath, "Hey, coach." And now she's very vocal. She's talking to her friends. She's talking to other kids. She's even helping with our baby pandas class. And it really does change a lot, because when you first saw her come into jiu-jitsu, you would not think she came as far as she did, or she's doing what she's doing now, or helping run classes with our youngest group, the 3 to 5 year olds, right? Like, she's not just coaching; she's actively coaching. She's engaged in her coaching. She's talking to the kids. She has the ability to show technique and a great understanding of that. And I think that just comes with, over time, jiu-jitsu really does help you break out of your shell and puts you in a position, because like Coach Muhammad was talking about a little bit with the other sports, is those are team sports. Jiu-jitsu is the most individual team sport you can do, because you train with your team, you compete with your team, but at the end of the day, you are by yourself on those mats, right? You can listen to your coach, but everybody knows when you compete, it gets really loud. The venue can be, when you compete in certain tournaments, fairly far from the mat, so you can't always hear everything your coach has to say. So you have to rely on your training from before that. So, I mean, jiu-jitsu is going to help you. Like I said, it's the most individual team sport you can do. You still have the team camaraderie that you build through training with them, but at the end of the day, you got to step out there and build the confidence and the courage to compete.
So we can go into the success of competition in a second, but I'm going to follow up with just, the troll mom. Like, it sounds like you're robbing these kids of their childhood. Why can't my kid just go outside and play? Like this is, let kids be kids. I saw, let kids be kids. Sounds like you're robbing them of their childhood. What do you have to say to that?
I'd like to answer it. So something that my mom will joke around. She's like, these kids are doing so much more than you were at your age. You weren't competing at no kids pans, and it's something
Nancy is like the family mother. She's looking out for, like, the Metro team mother. Like, she's looking out for every kid. Like, well, wait, like, she's always. I wasn't thinking of her, but it's funny that she made that comment. Go ahead.
And so when you think about how these kids are doing, the way I look at it is so much more memorable as a childhood to look back and say, I spent my younger time training to compete at the highest level of a sport. And that's not something many kids can say. That is something that majority of kids, everybody's going to look back and say, I hung out with my friends as a kid. Everybody's going to say, I saw my friends in the summer. But not many kids are going to be able to say that I learned dedication. I learned how to train for something serious. I learned how to take sacrifice, because the first year these kids went, they had to give up swimming in the pool because the pool they were swimming in had like a rough bottom, and they were come in saying their feet hurt. So we had to say no more swimming because it affects your training.
At the hotel. No.
At one of the kids' houses. One of the kids have a pool.
The Airbnb or whatever.
Not even in Florida. In the summer, training for kids fans.
Oh, they couldn't. So they gave up pool time in Michigan.
Yes, ouch. In Michigan summer, and they gave it up. They said, coach said no more swimming, and they stopped swimming. They would stop their roughhousing outside of here. And there's something to say about a kid who learns dedication and sacrifice because they have something like a greater goal that most kids don't have. So the way I always looked at it as is you're giving them a different childhood, but one that's going to set them up for success later in life.
Well, that's I mean, what I'm hearing. I mean, you interview the most successful people, super successful people. One of the top traits is learning delayed gratification. Like
Yes.
period. So that's in like we live in an instant gratification society. I want my food delivered now. I want Prime next day. I want I don't want to wait. And so waiting and be like, hey, you know what? I'm training real hard for this tournament. It's got to be after. And we see, man, I've lost track of how many men and women and into adulthood. It's like, dude, you didn't need that $50,000 truck right now. Like that's why you're struggling is that $900 payment. Or you didn't need to make this leap, or you didn't need to do this. Wait till you're in a position for that. You make some sacrifices, certainly. And I think that's coming from a kid like I didn't play. I think I played like a season of basketball, like at my in middle school, like a season or something. But the rest of it was spent just I don't even know, dude. I played a lot of video games, I watched a lot of television. I did, we played outside somewhat, but then it was also like it just wasn't. I can see now how the personal discipline would have benefited me because I had to relearn those skills. I had to learn discipline. I mean, like we worked a lot, but like I had to learn the discipline into adulthood. I had to learn like what it was like to work out. Man, it's much easier to learn that at age 9 than at 19. Because your life gets busier.
Something else that's important to think about is surround yourself with good influences and good, like you surround yourself with who you want to be. And these kids are surrounding themselves with hard workers. I think there are a lot of kids who might have been like, you know what, if it was just me on the mats, maybe I'll take a break. But because they're seeing hardworking kids, it keeps them going. And so if you surround yourself with positive friends and strong influences, you're only doing yourself a favor. So again, it really depends on what type of childhood you want your kid to look back on. Do you want them to look back on and say, I worked hard my whole life, my whole childhood, I trained for something serious and big? Or do you want them to look back and say, I spent all day playing video games and hanging out with my friends? Like that's just what you're looking for as a parent.
So let's go into Professor Muhammad's question of which is some success that you work with on these kids. What does the actual trip look like? Because I mean, he's spot on, dude. 4-minute match. It is like the most. It's a terrifying thing when you're in the bullpen, which is the finals. That they kind of pull you away. They literally pull you away from your family and coaches. There might be like an age limit, maybe 5 or 6 year olds. They let a coach
up to 9. I think it is.
Up to 9, okay. But after that, they're like, okay, no, just the kid, and they walk the and dude, man, that's like I don't like that feeling as an adult. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go in the bullpen now, and it's just like this. Everyone's warming up, and it feels to me. It feels like you've ever seen the first scene of Saving Private Ryan. I know it's a graphic movie talk about like when we're talking about the kids, but they're on the boats to Normandy, and you're just like, man, this is about to be really mayhem. Like that's what it feels like, and then they walk you out, and it's just you. And it's like, and your success or failure is directly tied to you. It's not your coach's fault if you lose. It's not your teammates. It's not your like. How do you prep a kid for that? What's that trip look like? During the actual travel and leading up to the matches.
A lot of it has to do with their training leading up to it. One of the questions you'll hear us ask the most is, "What is your game plan?" And like my dad said, it's something to say when you are training or when you're in a tournament, there's only 4 minutes. I can't tell the ref, pause real quick so I can teach my kid how to escape this or give him the tactical plan to get out of this move or to pass this guard or to whatever it is. And so it really comes down to prepping the kid to the best of their abilities so that they will be able to defend themselves, so that they will be able to get out of this move, so that they will be able to pass the guard. The student Faddis talked about with somebody who went from not speaking at all, so taking silver her second year at Kids Bands. All they worked on was passing the guard. She knew they were going to pull guard, and she said, "We're just going to prep for it." And when you have a game plan so imprinted in your brain, it's very easy to get out there and just execute it. Get out there and let's just go play our game. And it just a lot of it comes down to preparing before the tournament because there is no timeouts, there is no break. You can coach them mid match, but again, when you're live coaching, not only does your student hear, the other kid hears, the other coach hears, there's a lot of tactical involvement in the coaching, making sure you can stay without like giving your hand or being so confident in your kid that I'm going to tell you what to do, they're going to execute it, and the other kids still can't stop it.
How does the child choose their game plan? Because obviously they're not all the same.
Yeah. Faddis, do you want to answer that one? You spend a lot of time.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So that obviously is going to go from kid to kid. Some of the kids can kind of tell you, all right, this is where I feel most comfortable. This is what I'm the best at. This is where I see the most success. And other kids need you to kind of not. I don't like to tell them what they have to do because I think the game plan should come from the kid. But I think the coach needs to kind of say, all right, kind of give them a roadblock. Like, this is where I think you're succeeding the most. This is a specific set, like a roadmap to where I think you've done the best at tournaments, certain positions, certain sweeps, certain game plans, but then also prepping for anything. Because at the end of the day, you can plan to pull guard, but if they beat you to the guard pull, you need to know how to address it. So they have a game plan, but it's not the only thing that they're proficient in, and they have other ways to get to where they need to get to. But setting your game plan is kind of just you. I sit down, I talk to each kid that I know is going. Where do you feel the most comfortable? Where do you? So I let them kind of explain what they think, and then I'll give them my input. And at the end of the day, they come up with, all right, they want to do takedowns. This is the takedown they're going to be looking for. This is the little like 3-system move, right? You got like three sweeps, 3 takedowns that all work and complement each other. And then it's from there where they also still have to work on, like, if they're pulling guard, they still have to know how to do takedowns, because in the last 30 seconds, if you're down by an advantage, you need to score quick. Pulling guard's not always the best option there. So they still work on every aspect of their jiu-jitsu, but their game plan is more specific to each student. It's never the same for like everybody. Everyone's got a different game plan, and that can change from body type, that can change from how athletic you might be, that can change from your understanding of judo versus jiu-jitsu, your understanding of closed guard versus open guard versus closed guard. So it definitely varies from kid to kid.
So how do you so if you have a game plan you're working, there are some times when as a coach, a kid might feel comfortable and say close guard, right? They want to get there, they feel close, they can control a little bit more or whatever. But let's say you see something in one of your athletes, it's like, you know what? I can see that you're doing really good at this position. You might not like it, you might not feel comfortable, but I think you have the best chance to win with a different strategy from what you're comfortable with. How do you work with like a young kid to take them out of where they feel like they're comfortable, but you know that they have a technical and tactical advantage in something that you see that they might not be confident in? How do you get a kid to say, okay, I'm going to trust you, go outside of my comfort zone and execute it within only like a 4 or 5 minute span? How do you get them to trust you and say, okay, I'm gonna trust you and do what you think is best to give me my best choice?
You're talking about during the match, right?
No, before, like,
And,
yeah, before, like, as far as a
mhm.
game plan, they're comfortable in one area, but you're like, I see something and I know that's high level stuff. And
Yeah.
I think our game plan should be here. So you kind of change it. How do you get them to trust you and go outside of where they feel safe?
So kids like to see themselves win, obviously. So the first thing that I always like to do is, anytime you have a game plan, we go to X amount of tournaments prior to kids pans. like local tournaments, right? Like tune-ups in anywhere in the area, Ohio, Michigan, anywhere within a 4-hour drive, we'll try and hit. So telling them that they have to experiment in those tournaments where they got to kind of work and put them in an area where they might not be so comfortable, because when they see themselves succeed or they see the move work, they're more inclined to be, you know what, I got this move down. I got this move down. I got this move down. Right? We had a student, she has a really good open guard, but she doesn't believe she has a good open guard. So she would pull guard and then they would pass. And she's like, you know what, coach, I can't pull guard. Or you know what, coach, I don't want to do it. So then I had to constantly remind her, you have to keep trying it. At local tournaments, try it in class. Doesn't matter how many times you get passed, you have to build that ability, because I know she has a good open guard, but she has to trust in her open guard. So building that confidence comes in definitely competing as much as you can prior to like your big long-term goal. So as many local tournaments as you can hit, as many IBJJF Open kids as they have, and trying to get them in as many of those, because when they put themselves in that position, you're already kind of like, you're going to get nervous competing regardless. So you're going to already be like already in your head. And the other thing is just constantly having them do a lot of position training from that position to get them more mentally ready. Like, okay, I've been in this position. If you just say, you know what, I think you should just start playing lasso after you've been working a bunch of De La Riva, they're not going to feel super comfortable because they haven't been in that position. So putting them in that position in De La Riva or in classic position training, or telling them to do it at local tournaments helps with that confidence, because their mind tells them, you know what, I've been here and I know what I'm doing from this position.
Yeah, you stack those small wins, which is that's actually a great, honestly, that's something our adults I think could take away from as well. You know, I think a lot of times just due to schedule, right? Like you go and it's like this grappling industry means everything. This Naga, like, you know, I need that Naga belt, right? Like, but which was cooler before I realized you could buy them at the tournament. It's just totally deflated. It really this is a sad day for the jiu-jitsu
You could
game.
buy
I found that
300.
out. It was really sad. But so I want to change gears a little bit. You guys, Coach Farris, Coach Jibril, you guys own a small business, and it's a tournament. It's a tournament, a kids tournament, known as the Metro Invitational, and we have one coming up end of the year, date to be announced. But let's talk about that, because it's a pretty unique, one of a kind. And so I'd like to go into what was the brainchild of it, where'd the idea come from, what's the nature of this, and kind of where you see that going, because it's a really cool, we get emails from parents in the past who are like, hey, when are you doing that again? There hasn't been anything like that in the region. When are you doing that again?
So the Metro Invitational, it's funny, it actually started originally, we were just looking to get our kids better preparation for kids pans. And with local tournaments, you just can't really control who signs up. It's really just whoever comes and shows up. They just show up. So we went around and just talked about it. And then we said, let's just invite kids to the gym to get a good, high quality match. A lot of the kids who compete are either going to kids pans themselves or are at the caliber that if they did go to kids pans, they would do well. So we reach out to a bunch of other gyms and just get them one high quality match. And that's something that you don't really see for kids. There's so many super fights for adults. But me and Coach Faddis, our focus is kids. And so we said, let's reach out to gyms. Let's get these kids a experience fighting at a level where there's just them. Everybody's watching them, all eyes on them. And it teaches them a little bit, it preps them for some of the bigger events. If they do go on to fight at some of the bigger events, fight to win, things like that, they will be prepared, because it's not the first time. And obviously, we're nowhere near that level of scale. But when it's the first time they do it, it's something that's a little bit different. And it gives the kids one good match. We have really good refs who come to the event. And that's something that's really important to us, is high quality refs. And but yeah, we really try to focus on getting these kids good, high quality matches before kids pans and after. At the end of the year, we normally host 2. This year, we're just really busy in the summer, so we're just going to have this one. But just getting kids good, high quality matches was the foundation of it, and it built it to what it is.
how do you? So it's a super fight only tournament, and super fight
Yeah.
just means like you're kind of matchmaking, right? Like your kids' styles, kids, game plans, and you've seen others, competing, just so you kind of make like a really tight, expressive match. I remember one of the refs was a fill-in last minute, was Jacob Couch, and he was like, "Yeah, I expected to just come see like sucky kids jiu-jitsu," and it was like he's like, I was impressed, by it. He actually really cool is once he found out what the funds were going towards, he donated his entire pay, towards right back to the tournament, because it goes towards it goes towards kids travel and like help and stuff like that. So which is super cool. But what do you see? Where do you see that going? Like, where do you guys see that growing? Is it just going to stay? Because obviously we hosted, the first couple at Metro, at our headquarters in Southgate. Do you see that growing outside of Southgate, outside of the state? Like, where's your guys' vision for that?
Love to, I think in state is probably where it'll stay, but we'd love to grow it to a point where we're starting to host it at a venue, somewhere where we can get a little bit different style of seating, set up the mats, and just kind of grow it in a way that has more space. I love hosting it at the gym because it's a very comfortable atmosphere, and I've been told that from a lot of parents. A lot of the parents from other gyms and our gym have just been like, it's very nice to be at a gym because it makes the kids more comfortable, because it's like, okay, I'm just at a gym doing a match. But we would like to grow to a point that we could host it at a venue and make it a little bit bigger of a scale.
I've got a venue for you. I got a great venue for you, actually.
We're at.
Remember 242, where we were going to have where we had our summer program set up in Brighton? Dude, it's like mega turf style, and then I could even, if you're open to it, I could build you a pit. I'd be like karate combat. Like I could build you like a pit style, like they're gonna have at the Craig Jones Invitation. I'm just saying. Like,
I'm
not
against it.
You're not against it?
It sounds like you got to be different.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's
we would
really
just
cool.
need raised seating so the parents could view in. I could even see the differences. I could add like a door to where they run in, almost like, I think at the pit in karate combat and CGI they have to hop over. We'll just have like a raised door and they can run in and then close it like Coliseum style. That might be cool. A little extra, but I could I'll get you the deets on that. I still have the still the contact info, and I spoke to them explicitly when I saw the venue, because it's huge, right? It's got like huge. It's going to be the equivalent of two soccer fields, but you have balcony viewing, and you've got like the ceilings are probably 20, 30 feet, but then you also have like restrooms and on-site cafe. So I know the food and it's like clean food too. So, I know a lot of, it is what it is. It's a lot of the restaurants is just fried, like, you got fries and chicken fingers, right? But like we can get that set up. If you're open to a pit, I could build you a pit too. Super simple.
Definitely.
But all right, well that's guys, I appreciate you hopping up. I know you guys tend to be staying up late with other, activities, responsibilities. Appreciate you hopping on so early. We are excited to kind of start our kids program. What is that? That's one last question. What does the involvement of our Southgate kids look like at our new Canton Westland location? Like, are we starting fresh from that? Like, what do you guys kind of see with the new spot over in the Canton area?
That's kind of to be determined. One thing I would like is to have them go over maybe once a month, once every 2 weeks, just to let give the Westland location like a visual of like, this is what you guys will have. Like, I do plan on having a competition team out of there as well. But yeah, every once in a while I would like to host a class over there to just give some of our new kids a visual of like a goal to hit. If you want to be competing competition style, this is what I would like.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys hopping on, and then we're excited for things that are going to come, and then we'll see you guys at the gym tonight. Appreciate you hopping on early. As always, we will see you all on the mats.